Breaking news, thanks for joining us. Minutes ago, North Korea announced its military is examining plans to strike the U.S. territory of Guam and the surrounding areas with medium to long-range missiles.
We're also learning the U.S. flew another 2 bombers, B-1B bombers, over the Korean peninsula on Monday, a move that always angers Pyongyang, and this could be a result of that. These new developments coming just a few hours after the U.S. president issued a very disturbing ultimatum.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before.
All right, obviously a lot of fast-moving developments. Let's get right to our Alexandra Field, who is live at CNN Seoul. I know a lot of South Koreans just waking up to this news. What are you hearing?
And they will be seeing not only the headlines that are coming from the United States, these incredibly bold and candid threat from President Donald Trump, vowing this incredible response just to a threat from North Korea. At the same time, they will also now be seeing the news that is coming from North Korea and their state-run news agency, citing military spokespersons there who say that the army is putting together a plan for Kim Jong-un that would outline their capabilities for a strike on the U.S. bases at Guam using medium to long-range missiles. They say that this is a potential response for the reckless military provocations that have come from the U.S. You've got both sides now issuing incredibly blunt, very precise threats that the whole world is hearing. The KCNA state news reporting is very precise about the kind of provocations that North Korea feels it's responding to. They outline what have been these somewhat routine flights of B-1B bombers over the Korean Peninsula. They reference what's happened in the waters off the Korean Peninsula. That would be a presence of strategic U.S. military assets. North Korea has vehemently opposed the joint exercises between the U.S. and South Korean Army that they see as a preparation for invasion, and they're also specifically addressing recent U.S. ballistic missile tests. All of this they see as contributing to tension. All of this they see as a threat that they need to respond to with potential military action that they say could be ordered by Kim Jong-un at any time once he reviews the plans that are being presented to him by his commanders. They also make reference to some of the rhetoric that we have heard coming from Washington recently. It's important for us to note that this plan or the potential for a plan to attack Guam was a statement that was made even before President Trump made these latest comments about fire and fury on the Korean Peninsula. But they do, in fact, make reference to some previous comments that came from administration officials in Washington. There is reference to H.R. McMaster talking about the possibilities of preventive war. There seems to be a reference to Senator Lindsey Graham, who recently spoke and said something along the lines of, if thousands of people die, they won't die in the U.S., they'll die over here, meaning on the Korean Peninsula. And they also made reference to the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, talking about the U.S.'s right to exercise a military option.
And Alex, got to ask, what is the reaction there, particularly, and you make a very good point here. A lot of people are saying, if North Korea fired a nuclear missile at the United States, there would be hell to pay. But these comments are saying if these threats continue, this is what Kim Jong-un does. He threatens. So if a threat continues and you're going to have fire and fury, the likes of which the world has never seen, how is that going to go down in Seoul?
I think there are going to be a lot more questions this morning, Michael, frankly, about President Trump than about Kim Jong-un, because as you point out, people here in South Korea, they are used to the tension on the peninsula. They are used to this constant barrage of threats that have come from the regime in North Korea, not just from Kim Jong-un, but his father, his grandfather. This is something that they have lived with. What is a less familiar circumstance to them is how the U.S. leadership will react. This new administration that has, again, issued this very blunt threat, echoing really more the language that you're used to hearing from Pyongyang Pyongyang than Washington, D.C. There have been so many messages that have been coming from Washington, D.C. that South Korean people have been trying to keep abreast of. They're trying to understand what the U.S. policy is. They have heard a number of times a reassurance that has come from the U.S., a commitment to the partnership that exists, that has existed for so many decades between South Korea and the U.S. They have been reassured by top U.S. leaders that the U.S. is committed to their defense. That is a treaty obligation. But certainly they have had questions, and this kind of rhetoric that talk about the possibilities of military action and military options does raise legitimate concern for some people in Seoul. And that is, of course, because they're not just concerned about ICBM development. They're not just concerned about nuclear weapons. They know that they sit just 35 miles from the heavily fortified border that separates North Korea and South Korea. Right here in Seoul, you've got more than 20 million people very much within range of the conventional arsenal of artillery that North Korea has pointed at this city, at this country at all times. They do not want to see a mistake happen. They do not want to see a war of words escalate into a conflict unintentionally.
Yeah, that is the reality. It's South Korea and Japan that have the most to lose if there were to be a conflict. Alex Field, we appreciate you live for us there in Seoul. Thanks. Let's get to Guam now, which is quickly becoming a front line, as we can see, in this possible showdown. Our Ivan Watson is there, and again, I mean, just a major provocation of a threat of a missile launch, several of them, 4 of them, and North Korea is saying that this plan for this would be in place by mid-August. How is all of this likely to go down? How is it likely to be received in Guam?
Well, we haven't had an official response to this latest statement coming from North Korean state media. In response to the previous threat that North Korea was drawing up plans for something, some enveloping fire directed at Guam using rockets, using missiles, you had statements coming from the governor of Guam, from the local representative of the Department of Homeland Security, trying to reassure the population, say that, hey, this is American soil. It will be defended by the U.S. military. There is no increase of the threat level here. And you had the U.S. Secretary of State stopping through Guam in the last 24 hours on a trip back from Asia to the U.S., stopping through here for refueling, indicating that Americans can sleep comfortably at night and that he had not considered changing his itinerary because he does not feel any new threat to Guam. It'll be interesting, of course, in the coming hours to see whether there will be a specific response from the U.S. side, from local authorities, to this most recent threatening statement coming out of Pyongyang. On the ground here in Guam, in this territory, which is home to more than 160,000 U.S. citizens, also home to Andersen Air Force Base and a Navy base, you do not see signs of panic. I came in here on a commercial airliner flight from South Korea that was full of tourists coming to resort hotels here that are packed to capacity. They don't have available rooms, really. As far as ordinary residents of this island, there is some gallows humor. A border and customs officer, a U.S. border and customs officer, joking when I went through passport control, welcome to ground zero. Other people that I've talked to saying, I'm not going to worry at all about this. I'm going to leave my faith in God. Others indicating that they have friends or acquaintances who are more nervous, who slept with their clothes on last night, who put bottled water nearby. So it's down to individuals to how they'll interpret and react to the very clear war of words between Washington and Pyongyang, with this U.S. territory, this U.S. island, very much caught in the middle.
It's certainly